The Winterfields' mansion looked perfect from the outside. Polished marble floors, golden chandeliers, and glass walls that reflected the sun like crystals. But inside, a quiet fear lived in every corner, especially inside little Emily's bedroom. Emily Winterfield, the 8-year-old daughter of billionaire Charles Winterfield, had been sick for months. The doctors had run every test possible: blood work, allergy checks, heart scans, neurological exams, and every report came back with the same confusing result. She's physically healthy. There's no medical reason for her symptoms. Yet every night, like clockwork, Emily grew pale, dizzy, feverish, and terrified. And every morning her father found her huddled on the edge of her bed, dark circles under her eyes trembling as if she had seen a nightmare she couldn't describe. Charles, once an unshakable businessman, now looked like a man losing a silent war. His wife had passed away 2 years earlier, and Emily was the only piece of her he had left. He tried everything: therapists, private nurses, expensive medicines, but nothing changed. Until one morning an agency sent someone new. Her name was Grace Moreno, a calm, soft-spoken nanny in her early 30s with warm eyes and a voice that instantly soothed Emily the moment they met. She wasn't intimidated by the mansion like everyone else. She didn't tiptoe around Charles. She didn't pretend to be impressed. She simply knelt beside Emily's bed and said, "Hi, sweetheart, I'm here to help you feel safe again." For the first time in months, Emily didn't look away. That night, Grace insisted on staying in Emily's room. Charles hesitated. "Are you sure Emily doesn't like being watched while she sleeps?" Grace smiled gently. "Then I won't watch, I'll just be here if she needs me." As the mansion lights dimmed and silence filled the hallways, Emily fell asleep quickly, something that hadn't happened in a long time. Grace sat in the corner reading, listening to the soft ticking of the clock. But then around midnight the temperature in the room dropped. Emily began to whimper, tossing and turning. Her breath came out in little gasps. Sweat soaked her forehead. Grace stood immediately. "Emily, honey, what's wrong?" Emily didn't answer. She was staring, and not at the ceiling, not at Grace, but at the floor, straight under her bed. Her tiny hand reached out and trembled. Her lips moved, but the only word she whispered was, "Not again." Grace felt a cold chill run down her spine. She slowly crouched beside the bed, lowering herself until she was level with the empty darkness beneath it. At least, she thought it was empty. Then she heard it. A faint scraping sound, metal against wood, slow, deliberate, coming from under the bed. Grace's heartbeat thundered. She reached for the bedskirt, lifted it, and what she saw inside the shadows made her freeze completely, because there was something under the bed, something Emily had been too afraid to speak about, and it was staring right back at her. Grace's fingers trembled as she held up the bedskirt. Her breath stopped mid-chest. Her eyes adjusted to the darkness. And then she saw it. A pair of eyes, tiny, round, glassy, staring back at her from under the bed. They didn't blink. They didn't move. But they were there. For a moment, Grace didn't move either. Every instinct told her to scream, but she forced herself to stay calm for Emily's sake. Slowly, she leaned forward. The eyes glimmered again. And then she realized they were attached to a camera. A small, black, hard-to-notice device taped under the wooden frame. A blinking light glowed faintly, recording everything happening in the room. Grace's blood ran cold. Someone had been watching Emily sleep. Someone had been watching her suffer. And worst of all, someone inside this mansion had installed the camera. Grace swallowed hard and looked back at Emily. The little girl was hiding under her blanket, shaking as if she already knew what Grace had found. "Emily," Grace whispered softly. "How long has this been here?" Emily didn't speak. She only held on to her stuffed rabbit and pointed weakly toward the door. Not just fear, terror lived in her eyes. Grace stood up immediately, pulling the blanket around Emily and lifting her into her arms. Emily clung to her like a lifeline, burying her face in Grace's shoulder. "It's okay, sweetheart, you're safe now," Grace whispered, though she wasn't sure it was true. She carried Emily to the hallway and shut the bedroom door behind her. Her mind was racing. Who would put a camera under a child's bed? Why was Emily getting sick every night? What was she really scared of? Grace walked quickly through the halls until she reached Charles Winterfield's study. Light glowed from beneath the door. He was still awake. She knocked. "Come in," Charles called, his voice weary. Grace stepped inside with Emily in her arms. Charles looked up from his desk, confused. Is everything okay? No, Grace said firmly. We need to talk right now. Charles stood up, alarmed. Emily, what happened? Grace took a breath. There's a camera under her bed. The words punched the air out of the room. What did you say? Charles whispered, his face draining of color. Grace repeated it. Charles covered his mouth in shock. No, that's possible. Nobody has access to that room except... He stopped mid-sentence. Grace noticed. Except who, Mr. Winterfield? Charles swallowed hard. The staff, he answered slowly, and her doctor. Emily whimpered at the word doctor. Grace gently rubbed her back. Charles, she said carefully, Emily is not just sick, she's terrified. This is not a medical issue. Someone has been watching her and hurting her. Charles felt his knees weaken. He grabbed the edge of his desk to steady himself. I trusted everyone in this house, he whispered. Everyone, and this happens under my roof? Grace stepped closer. We need to find out who did this tonight. But before Charles could respond, a sound echoed through the hallway. A soft click. Someone had just opened Emily's bedroom door. The door Grace had closed only minutes ago. Grace and Charles froze. Because the only person who would be in that hallway at midnight was the one who put the camera there.